Once again, happy Wednesday, everybody. Drake Toll alongside Cameron Stewart here, Locked On Big 12 and Locked On Baylor. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day, as always. Cam, the Baylor Bears are, como se dice, good at the basketball thing. Here's my take. This is my thesis here. Baylor is now a Final Four caliber team. After that Auburn game to open the year, we thought that might be the case for the squad. Yep. Then there was like they got killed by Michigan State, and the Duke game wasn't pretty. Then some of these Big 12 games have not been great. But now, despite a loss against Kansas, where I don't believe in moral victories, but you got a couple, and now this win against Oklahoma, which was dominant, I think I like the Baylor Bear.
I do too, Drake. And last night's game was the first time that I was like, they have taken a team that's not as good as them, but Oklahoma is a top 25 team. It has been for months now.
Top 10 at one point, I think.
Yeah.
Gross, but they were there.
And Baylor kicked the crap out of them. Like this is their first 20-point lead they've had in conference play. And OU went on a couple of short runs, 6 straight or 8 straight, and where in other games that would leave it as a 2-point game, it brought it to like a 10 or 12-point game. And Baylor just kept them there, and you didn't even get great production from your best players in this game last night. And so this was the first time I was like, no real like fluke or excuse on the other end. Baylor just took a team that wasn't as good as them and put them in their place like pretty soundly in this game last night. So I'm like all the way back. Question. We are so back.
Question from the front row here.
Yeah.
Is this the most complete game that Baylor has played, at least in Big 12 play?
Yeah. We thought we were trending that way in the Iowa State game. It was the most impressive first half they had played. And then the refs got in the way. But yeah, I mean, we've seen it in spurts, but it was always, but Iowa State or UCF or whomever or Cincinnati was way better these next 8 minutes, or you hit one field goal in 8 minutes against Texas. So you had seen the spurts there. This, you saw it for a whole game. Like, again, the OU didn't really threaten them after the first 10 or 12 minutes of the game. Baylor hit a lot of threes in the first half. They shot, I think, 59% from the floor in the first half, and then just didn't look back. This is the best they have looked all year, Drake. I know you've been following along. This is the best they've looked.
That's what 55%, 52% from 3. You go 11
That's
for 21.
Good, man. That's really good.
And I think it's a sweet spot. If Baylor makes 11 threes every game, they're going to be tough to beat. If you get double digits for a Baylor, if you're a BYU, you might not be guaranteed to win. For Baylor, question in the front row here. Yes.
No, I was going to let you finish that point, but just wanted to put out there.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time not that long ago where if I asked you who is Baylor's worst starter, who would you tell me?
Who?
Like beginning of the conference schedule.
I mean, can I say Jaden Nunn?
You can say Jaden Nunn, because I think that's what a lot of people would have said. I would have said that. Last night, Drake, he had 27 points on 8 of 12 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3, 3 rebounds, 3 steals, and 0 turnovers. So after 21 turnovers,
which that part's shocking, by the way.
Yes. After 21 turnovers against Kansas, he and Ray J. Dennis combined for 1 turnover in this game against OU. Like that's there's so many things that has changed this Baylor fortune in the last 4 or 5 games here. Yeah. But that is the one to me that, like, Jaden Nunn, who was like killing you at times early in the conference schedule, he just wasn't getting it right. He has gotten it right, and he's not going to give you 27 every night, but the fact that he is capable of that, look out. And also, which he's done all season, played great defense.
Baylor
fans, I don't know if they really appreciate the defense, because the only time not the only time, but we have seen Davion Mitchell, and it was like so in your face good defense that any casual observer could realize how great the defense was. And now we're starting to realize it with Jaden Nunn too.
The 55% and shooting.
I love Jaden Nunn.
8% better than Oklahoma with 6 more shots than Oklahoma and only turning the ball over 5 times as a team, leading the points off turnover 22-6. I mean, again, this is as dominant as it gets. 10-2 in fast break points. You slowed Oklahoma down. You slowed them down wholly to where they were so uncomfortable they put up 62 points.
5 turnovers for the game. 5
for the whole team.
21, man.
Jaden Nunn can usually do that by himself. Or
yes, easy.
My question is, though,
even when he's playing somewhat well,
I go back. I think the worst taste that I've had in my mouth in conference play for Baylor, and this may not even be their worst game, but it's TCU. That's the game I circle and go, ugh, I can't get it out of my brain just to think another Horned Frog victory in Waco, and my Horned Frogs going to Waco and getting it done.
Naturally, going back home to Waco. Yep.
Try to convince me that was the outlier here. Why will those games not show up again?
Well, it's a good question, and I don't know that I would have called it an outlier at the time. It was a tough loss, but we had seen them lose close games. We saw, the turnover
Kansas State
bug
and Texas
in that game. The turnover bug had bit them in that game big time. They didn't have good end of the clock possessions, which they have somehow improved vastly the last couple of games. And so it was more of like, it wasn't an outlier at the time, but I can look at that now because the end of the clock possessions are much better. And I know that's only a short portion of the game, but it's absolutely been huge for them. And B, because the defense has steadily gotten better since then to the point that I don't know that they're going to go back to that. They had that game in control with 10 or 8 minutes left against TCU, and the Frogs just kept coming down and just like backing them down for layups. Like it wasn't like they really got hot from 3 or even that Baylor went totally stagnant. In fact, we were keeping track of that. They were scoring, but TCU was getting just great looks at the basket every time down, and it continued into overtime. Right now, you're not getting that. This is back-to-back games. They've held ranked teams under 65 points, and they really probably could have done that against Tech last week as well, but they kind of let the foot off the gas toward the end of the game. And they have shown dominance in the conference schedule in the zone and in man-to-man, and switching that throughout the game, which again they did last night, that this defense ain't going to be as good as Houston or Iowa State, but it's not going to be that far off. It's really not. When it's all said and done, they have trended towards that direction, and it's not. I just don't think that's something that's going to go away from this team. So that's why I think when you look back at that TCU game, it's an anomaly because they won't play that poor defensively, I don't think.
If a team loses a basketball game by 12, is that a blowout?
Blowout seems tough. I usually think, Drake, anything inside of 10, it feels like you had a chance at some point. So I don't know if it's a blowout, but that's comfortable.
What about 3?
And hey, I mean, 12 is a blowout in the Big 12. I'll say that.
What if you lose one by 3?
That's close.
It's a tight game. Baylor has lost 4 Big 12 games by a total of 12 points.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And when you get to March, you can't say,
they've won a couple. They've won a couple close ones too. Cincinnati, an inferior team, they won by 3.
In this conference is.
But yes, 4 by my 12 points, and when you're basically 1 game out of first place, that's huge.
Yeah, with West Virginia coming up too, which is very winnable because those BYU Houston games at TCU and Kansas at home, and there's
BYU on the road is scary, man.
It's got to get tough. This is a Locked On Baylor crossover with Locks on Dose Grande.